All right. Well, it looks like we have everybody now on stage. So, welcome everybody to episode 82 of the Hideout, where we will be talking about Web3 gaming and the Metaverse. And today we're going to have a little bit of digital art mixed in there as well. So, very excited to get started. I know people are going to be trickling in. So, we will start with some brief introductions, telling everybody about who we are, what we're building. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legions 2029 game. I've been in the space since 2017. Before that, I was a lawyer in the entertainment industry for 6 years. Just been really enjoying this crazy adventure that has been Web3 gaming and the Metaverse and NFTs. Today, I guess we're going to be talking about a few different things. For those of you who haven't heard of Satoshiverse or the Legions 2029 game, or who may be joining the Hideout for the first time, the Hideout we do every week, and we just started this new Hideout account where we're doing some additional content around it, and Spencer will tell you a little bit more about that when we get over to him. But Satoshiverse is a project that we originally started with legendary comic artist Jose Delbo, who worked for 50 years for DC and Marvel Comics, and then at the age of 86 became one of the top selling crypto artists in the space as he brought his amazing superhero art to the space. We worked together to create Satoshi the Creator, the superhero that is the foundation of our Satoshiverse universe. That was back in October of 2020. Since then, we've been building out the IP, including our Legions 2029 game. Legions 2029 is a fast-paced hybrid between a hack and slash game inspired by God of War and with roguelike and RPG mechanics inspired by games like Hades and Diablo. So really a new take. All of it's blockchain enabled, and it's free to play. I guess those are the super important ticker parts, but if you want more information, I pinned a tweet to the top of the spaces. It's got all the information you could want about the game, including links on how to download it and some of the initiatives that we're doing. But yeah, now what I want to do is I'm going to introduce the guests. If you could tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you're building, and then we will turn it over to Spencer to jump into the spaces. So let's start with Kevin over at Planet Atmos. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Nick. Great to be here. My name is Kevin Beauregard. I'm the founder and CEO of Planet Atmos. We're a Web3 game studio as well, and we're building our flagship game, XOGP, which is best described as Iron Man meets Mario Kart or Formula One meets Flight. You are a pilot in a futuristic science fiction universe. Everything takes place on the hostile planet of Atmos, and you are a jetpack racer. And it is absolutely enthralling. We're super proud of it. It's all built in Unreal 5. And we currently have a version that is live and available to play. It's code gated at the moment, but I think we'll be handing out some codes later on. But as far as my background, I've been in the Web3 space since 2013. I started a payment processor in the space. I switched into smart contract development pretty early, built a couple of NFT marketplaces, worked on a DeFi protocol, and ultimately said gaming is where my heart lies, and we're going to build an incredible universe. And so we've been building Planet Atmos since 2021.
Amazing. Well, the game looks super cool. I've seen some gameplay trailers and excited for what you guys are building. I guess one thing I forgot to mention on housekeeping, feel free to pin anything to the top of the space that you think would be illustrative of what you guys are building. We definitely love the videos and the gameplay trailers, especially so that people can get a sense of what you're all about. All right, so then let's jump over to designer Dave at Engines of Fury. Nice to have you here.
Hello, good morning. I am Designer Dave, Chief of Game Design for Engines of Fury. I've been in the game industry for 25 years, starting at Blizzard Entertainment, working on Warcraft 3 and World of Warcraft. You might know my work at a variety of other places. Wasteland 3 at In Exile. I worked at Ubisoft on, shoot. I Am Alive. I was at a bunch of places. Most recently, I was at Frost Giant for a little while, helping on Stormgate, and now I've been on Engines of Fury for 2 years. It is a top-down extraction shooter with ARPG elements. If we want to combine some games, let's say Escape from Tarkov meets Diablo. And we are going to be in alpha next month. And I would like everyone who is interested in a extraction shooter with ARPG elements to go to eof.gg/alpha and sign up. And if you want to escape that queue, every Friday, 1 p.m. UTC, I run Fury Radio, where I play a character called Hank Harrison, and there's currently a possibility of getting into the initiative program, skipping the queue, going straight into the alpha. We pick a winner every time I run the show, sometimes 2 or 3. So, if you're interested, let me know.
Very cool. Well, that sounds awesome. I'm also excited to see some gameplay from that. I'm a huge fan of Diablo, and so anything with ARPG elements, gets me excited. So very, very excited to see you guys continue to build and for your alpha launch. And last but definitely not least, we have a special guest from Nifty Gateway Studios here. We're going to be talking about Jose's upcoming drop, Jose Delbo's upcoming drop, and we're lucky to have one of my favorite people at Nifty Gateway here today. Chrisley, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more about what's going on at the newly branded Nifty Gateway Studios, and tell us maybe a little bit about the drop that's coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Nick. Super excited to be here. My name is Chrisley. I am a senior producer over at Nifty Gateway. We previously marketed ourselves as a NFT marketplace, but now we've kind of shifted over into Nifty Gateway Studio, where we really help build up artist stories and kind of create more intentional drops in the Web3 space. And so really excited to share kind of an upcoming project that we have for next week. I've been Jose Delbo's producer for the past 2 years now, so I've seen some really special drops from him. And this collection that we are releasing next week is actually the last collection that Jose minted shortly before his passing. So it's a super special collection, and it features a total of like 10 pieces. And I think it's a really fitting collection for this time because it's dedicated to 5 masters in the traditional art world. So we have Paul Cézanne, Vincent van Gogh, Frida Kahlo, Michelangelo, and Dali. So there's an artist for everyone. It kicks off next week on the 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's a series of different auctions that'll kind of kick off over 4 days. And yeah, super excited to kind of talk more about it later on, but I'll start with that for now.
Amazing. Well, happy to have you on here. Excited for the drop. Personally, it's a very special collection for me. I can testify to the fact that Jose worked on this probably longer than any other collection he worked on over a 3-year period. I remember back in, it was 2022. We were in Dubai at the Christie's auction house, and we were showcasing these pieces for what would be the first ever Christie's NFT auction in Dubai, which was really, really cool, and just a different experience for me personally. But these pieces are special. So if you haven't checked out the drop, we just pinned a post to the top of the spaces. Check it out. If you do want more information, feel free to DM Jose's account, and we can get you additional information, answer any questions. But without further ado, let's turn it on. I'm sorry. Turn it to Spencer for the rest of the questions and to take us away as the host.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. So my name is Spencer Vogel. I'm the business development manager with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment. And as Nick said, I'll be asking the questions for the space today. So to get into some housekeeping items first, and the format. So real quick, I just pinned a tweet to the top of the space. So we do a giveaway on every single one of our spaces here. And we're going to be giving away today 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is one of our in-game resources, which allows you to upgrade your items and your characters in game. Really important resource within the Satoshiverse. So we're going to be giving away 5 to 1 lucky winner at the end of the space. So all you have to do in order to be entered to win that is to retweet that post that I just pinned to the top that says "We're live." So give that a repost, and then if you're still here at the end of the space when we draw the winner, then you'll be eligible to win. So yeah, please give that a repost if you haven't already, and then also if you haven't followed the Hideout account, which I'm speaking from right now, we would appreciate if you give this a follow. We're trying to build up the Hideout brand, so appreciate that. Moving into the format, and then I guess I'll also mention Kevin said before that Planet Atmos is going to be giving away a few gameplay passes, so also stick around until the end for a chance to win those. And then moving into the format, so we're going to start out with a question for everyone. So I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the discussion from there. Then we'll move into individual questions for everyone. And then if we have time at the end, we'll get back into some questions for the group once more. So moving on to the first question, and maybe Kevin, you can start us off on this one. So what strategies are most effective for building and maintaining communities in the Web3 space?
Absolutely. It took me a second to find the mute button there. I think, it's building communities is hard, right? It's at the end of the day, right? And you use 2 words there, building and maintaining, right? I guess building is one thing, and then maintaining, especially when you're dealing with markets that have kind of significant fluctuations, are certainly, 2 different animals. I think one of the sort of obvious kind of things to point out is one of the core pieces of Web3, one of the things that we all kind of latch onto, right, is that, blockchain gives us an opportunity for incentive alignment between, within communities, and also a way to, incentivize collaboration between communities that, hasn't existed in the same way before. And I think that, people talk about this, beyond Web3 gaming, right? Just in DeFi communities, et cetera, around, kind of building collaboration culture, right? Even the fact that we're all in this space together right now, right? Like, and building these opportunities for, people to discover new content, to get excited about it, to latch onto it, and then ultimately, right, engage with it. And, it's not a one size fits all problem, but it is certainly something that, is a journey that we're all on together.
Yeah, I totally agree. And everyone else, feel free to jump in. We usually just get it started and then, jump in when you'd like. But I guess my view is much like Kevin's. I think there's a big difference between building the community and maintaining the community, in that I think that it also, it depends when you built your community and what the meta of the month was. I think a lot of Web3 projects specifically that were around in 2020, 2021, building for that space, are facing challenges right now in finding, you may have had communities that were very interested in IPs for financial reasons, or maybe they were just excited about Web3 in general, and the IP looked like they were going to be one of the leaders in that, and maybe didn't need to or want to engage at a deeper level. And I think, as the market has slowed down, the ones that have stuck around are the ones that really care about what the project is building at a deeper level. And so trying to understand, I think, how to motivate the people that are kind of part of the community that you currently have, I think, is a challenge. I think that goes to the maintaining part, because typically you'll have very diverse members of the community who have, very different goals in being part of that community. And I think, what we see on kind of a daily basis, at least from our perspective, is that the people who are constantly at these Twitter spaces, that they are, constantly in the Discord, commenting on the posts. I think that's like a very particular, type of community member that it's very difficult to find, people like that in general. I think these are the people that are your really, really core community who are contributing in basically every way that they can. And I think, if projects don't have core community members like that, I think it's very difficult for, founders and especially in Web3 to receive the type of feedback they need and the type of support they need from the community to really build a solid core. I think, there's kind of layers around that. And, when you start with people who, at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons that our core community sticks around, at least as I understand it, is because it went from, a belief in the IP, a general interest about what we were building or what other communities are building, to now, we've all become almost like a family, right? There's this friendship where we've met these people, right? We've been in circumstances with our community members where things are tough, and we try to support them, and when things are tough for us, they support us. And so it almost becomes, really like friendships. There's a personal element to a lot of these core communities that begins to exist. And you see it even with the bigger communities that, if you start to talk about, the bigger Web3 communities, even some that might be, in difficult times now, like the ape community with Yuga. I think what people get excited about isn't so much the fact that they own the NFT or that they really believe in, other side or whatever is being built. I think it's the friendships they made with other apes, and the events they went to, and the memories they have, and those Discord conversations. So I think there's a lot there that is intangible. And then I think the tangible stuff is, I think, how you grow your community, right? I think that's where it comes to the building. You really have to try to expand and maintain and have that core community there, but, continuing to build around it. Designer Dave, I see you having it.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. I think it's really about organic growth. It's very tough initially because you have to get people excited and interested in the project initially. But once you start having things to show, you just got to keep showcasing that stuff over and over again. Like every week, there's a new group of people who are going to come in. And if you are showing stuff the entire time, then they'll pick up on that. And then they become part of the project that way. Especially if you have, in our case, it's a GameFi project. So we are constantly showing people gameplay. I'm playing I play randomly throughout the week. And then every Friday we have Fury Radio where I try to play, with, special guests on the show. And I think that's when people see the gameplay and they're like, oh man, I want to play that. Or they see me play and I do something stupid and they're like, oh my God, I could do way better than this idiot. That's what brings them into the project and makes them think, yeah, this is something that I can actually get behind because there's something really there. Like I've seen a lot of projects that rely on family, but then they go quiet. And, I was in pretty early with a bunch of different projects. Many of them were GameFi, but some of them weren't. Of those 13, there's 2 left. And, other than Engines of Fury, they're all very quiet. And, it's a scary space because it was 2 years of basically a bear market. But now it's revitalizing again. And it really is about making sure that everyone sees that your project built during that time. I think that's what people should be looking for from the audience. And that's what we need to showcase is like, look what we've done in those 2 years. And I think that's where the audience generally will come from.
You touched on something super unique and interesting in there, right? In that, that building in public and that transparency component it's tough, and it's almost like it fights to some of the creative instincts of like, I don't want to show something till it's perfect. At the same time, you absolutely have to be, consistently showing those things. And it's kind of
Oh
like,
yeah.
a dichotomy that's constantly in tension, right? But it's something that's so core to what we're all doing.
Yeah. So I'll say I come from 25 years of game development. I have, absolutely no qualms showing people like, trash work. Like this is the stuff that I crappled together with like spare parts and, take a look and you can see where it's going and here's the plan for it. You kind of have to get over the whole like, I can't show anyone until it's perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Like, especially with like game development, it's never perfect.
Software in general, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to make something that doesn't have bugs or issues, and you gain far more from showing it and learning and seeing how people interact with something than you do by not. But it is something that psychologically people do struggle with.
Yeah. That was one of the things we did in a recent episode of Fury Radio is we had Laurenus, our game director, come on and basically show really old videos from the very start of the project that were like, bare rooms with just grids and like, showcasing like dots of AIs moving around and interacting with the player. And then we went and stepped through that process all the way to the current gameplay where it's like a lush, beautiful winter forest and, you see footprints in the snow as you're chasing down another player who might be out there and you want to snipe. And, yeah, it was very eye-opening for people who haven't seen game development or didn't understand it before. But more importantly, I wanted to show that look how far we've come now. And this is just the alpha. Imagine what our full release will be. And that has tended to work to get people excited and to understand that, even if it looks kind of lame initially, which is like, a year ago or 2 years ago, we are building and making something cool. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to build and make something cool. So even if something doesn't work quite like the way you think it should right now, that's something that can be worked on. And it requires that feedback from the audience sometimes to make sure that it gets to that point.
Firstly, I'm curious if you have any thoughts, I guess, around communities or collector bases for Web3 artists, around this question.
Yeah, for this question, I think it really boils down to kind of three key strategies. Genuine engagement, kind of education, and then a really strong shared vision. So on the first one, just genuine engagement, I think spaces like this, like hosting spaces on Twitter and kind of just having authentic interaction is really essential. I know Nifty also used to do kind of Discord AMAs where we would put kind of collectors in touch with artists and being able to ask them about the collection, ask them about the art, and kind of creating that really, just like really personal interaction is really important. Building trust and kind of making the members of the community feel valued. The second, I think, is education, which is sort of like a byproduct of that comes with engagement. Like a space like this where we are all learning from each other is really invaluable. And then lastly, I think where a lot of communities I feel go wrong is having a really strong shared vision. I think Web3 really focuses on roadmaps and kind of over-promising sometimes, but I think the communities that really do it right have a clear vision that articulates kind of the project's mission and values, and it's something that's easy to get behind. And when everyone kind of understands and believes in the vision, it really just creates a really nice sense of just purpose. And kind of just having those regular updates and open communication just keeps everyone on the same page and just excited about the future. So that's kind of my take there.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I guess my experience, being both on the collector side and the, art manager, I guess, side of the space is similar. I think what we see with the most successful artists in the space and especially, when we're seeing ones that have, these huge collector bases or just collectors that are like diehard collectors, it's the personal element, I think, of those collectors feeling a part of what they're collecting, getting to know the artist at a personal level. We work a lot with Trevor Jones, who I think is like the prototype example of what to do if you are a successful artist in the space and how to maintain communities. I think, he sometimes does too much. But I think it boils down to the fact that he is constantly interacting with his collectors, and he throws the castle party every year, which is a huge event that people have just a great time at and great memories at. And then I think the other side of that is that he's constantly trying to push the envelope and figure out what's next, what's interesting, what can we do that's different. And I think as Web3 gaming, you have to kind of do something similar, right? It's you have to build a really fun and engaging game that people actually want to play. You have to kind of build the community around that game and understand that oftentimes, at least for the projects that have been here for a while, we probably started in a very different place with a very different vision than what will ultimately, go to market in a year or two, just because the market has changed, the tech has changed, the people have changed, right? The goals have changed, and so much more is possible now than was possible 2 years ago. And so I think that we're going to see some big comeback stories. I think to Dave's point, the projects that have been quietly building in the bear, but also the projects that have been very loudly building in the bear. At the end of the day, what I want to see is that they've been building, right? And I think that we saw a ton of projects get funded back in 2021 and 2022. I think now is when we're starting to see some of the products come out from that. And I hope that this kind of influx of higher quality experiences in the gaming and metaverse space and the art space, artists really pushing the envelope, is going to kind of reinvigorate the market and show people the possibilities that we have in this space that aren't just pure financialization of things that don't need to be financialized, right? And I think that that hopefully we get to that point, and some of the organic community building begins to be a bit more natural again. But we'll see. It's a pretty interesting time, for the market, for the general economy, for the world. I think there's going to be a kind of interesting tipping point happening in the next several months, and I think we'll see a lot of interesting trends emerge in this space as we start to move forward.
Awesome. Well, let's move along to the individual questions here. Great discussion on that first one. So the first one's going to be to designer Dave. So Engines of Fury has a crafting system for upgrading weapons and gear. So I was wondering, how do you think blockchain technology better enables item or player progression compared to Web2 gaming?
Yeah, I don't think it does too much differently, but it does create an open market. So the idea with Engines of Fury is that anytime you want, you can decide to convert one of your items to an NFT and take it to the marketplace outside of the game or inside the game if you want, and sell it on the open market. So that provides an avenue for a revenue stream for an individual if that's what they want to do. And they can be watching the marketplace to see what sort of items are going up there. So it adds this extra layer of market activity to the game that I find kind of fascinating. There have been problems in the past where people don't build with that market in mind. And so one of the things we're doing at Engines of Fury is making sure that we retire item sets and certain prescriptors, basically the attributes that are on the item, and make sure that each season has a new set of items. Therefore, the value of the old items will go up over time as opposed to down, which is why Diablo 3 had to shut down its own marketplace, because they were devaluing everything within the game, and it was cheaper to just buy a whole set of really good stuff when you came into the game than it was to go find it on your own, and then the whole game became boring as a result. With us, there's always going to be a reason to be out there exploring, finding stuff, and making sure that you're constantly getting new items. That's one of the chief concerns, is to make sure that we don't devalue the gameplay experience by having this open marketplace that we have no real control over. And that's one of the things that I like about Web3, but is also the most worrisome about Web3. And as long as you design for it, I think you can maintain it, make sure that it's good and positive experience for everyone. If you ignore it, you will get destroyed. So it's best to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because we actually talk about the Diablo 3 example a lot on the spaces and kind of how real money elements can change game design. And one of the I 100% agree with you that that component has to be front of mind from the beginning of the design process. And I don't think it's something that you can just decide, okay, we're going to layer on an open economy. I'm curious though, because most of the challenge, or I guess most of the solutions that we've heard and been proposed ultimately come down to, real money will work in terms of aesthetics, real money purchases, real money will work in co-op games, and I've kind of heard the thesis there. I'm curious how in a PvP type game, you're thinking about avoiding that kind of pay to win dilemma around, real money economy. So I think that's for at least something that's been a challenge for us, and we're a co-op game. We don't have a PvP component, but thinking through how you avoid, especially if like attributes are being retired and whatnot. How do you get around creating that pay to win atmosphere?
Yeah, that is the struggle. Primarily, it's about making sure that we control the matchmaking. So we will be checking item levels and things like that to make sure that you're not going to get someone who's too overpowered in your game, which leads to other problems. So there's just a string of problems that comes from that sort of marketplace interaction. But the main thing is that most of the things that a player finds and earns and gets on their character are going to be, if they want to boost those items, they can't. They can re-roll the stats to go for a specific build, but they're not going to be able to necessarily purchase something outright that's overpowered. And everything will have that sort of baseline. So most people will be able to get to the baseline of power that we think makes them capable of PvP pretty quickly. And then it's just a question of what type of build do they want to make and how do they want to re-roll the stats on certain things that they find or build. It is a fine balance. There's no perfect answer, but generally speaking, we want it to be, if you run into other players, it's like a 50-50, and then you can always decide not to engage in PvP and try to work together to take down bigger monsters, which should always be more beneficial, and will be in our game. So it will primarily be trolls who do that. And with season 2, we'll be introducing a bounty system. And if you are a dickhead, then you will likely find bounties on your head and people will be hunting for you. And that's something that people will be able to do in the game pretty frequently. Yeah, I think you have to be a real dickhead to get a bounty on your head though. So we'll see how it all works out. I don't have all the answers right now, but that's because we're exploring a lot of new space, and this is Engines of Fury is a new genre effectively because we're taking the Escape from Tarkov formula and adding that ARPG element to it. In a top-down shooter, which neither of these games are like Diablo's not a shooter, Escape from Tarkov is not a ARPG and doesn't have this perspective. So it's a lot to balance. It's a lot to think about. But thankfully I have the 25 years of experience to work through these problems and try to create something new, which is the main reason that I'm working in Web3 is because when I work in AAA, they're making the same old games over and over again, and I wanted to do something new, and so here we are.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm glad you said what you said because I agree, and that's largely how we've designed our system, and we have a speed run component at the end, so there is a competitive element. But I like the approach of having a baseline and then allowing players to re-roll attributes to achieve a build type rather than having some overpowered items that, if you have that item, it's got a skill on it or an ability that only you can have, and therefore, you're going to be overpowered. And so I think, and I actually think that's probably the approach that will win out, at least in until someone figures out something better. But I think it's definitely a sound approach. So good to hear that you guys are building that way. And Kevin, I saw you had your hand up. Did you still want to jump in?
Yeah, just one thought to add, and I agree absolutely. I think that, having that differentiation in stat combinations and having those choices ultimately is fantastic. I think, just because we have, this opportunity in Web3 to, buy any item a la carte from an open market ostensibly, doesn't mean that we shouldn't push the envelope. And, we're building a racing game, right? And I like to say that, you wouldn't have Lewis Hamilton driving a Honda Civic and going into a Formula One race, right? As you're pushing skill ceilings, as you're building up competitive structures, as Dave mentioned, right? They control the matchmaking, to some extent. So you're not going to let items that are OP end up in particular competitions. But it is important for there to be differentiation and be, items that, potentially are better than other items in situations. And you want that variability to be available to players, and you want the players that spend the time to get really good to ultimately end up with those items. And Web3 has a unique way of taking advantage and making that happen, right? The best player can be, ostensibly sponsored by guilds or otherwise in order to end up, which is just like a Formula One team spending a bunch of money on R&D on a $120 million car, effectively, to make sure that the best drivers have the best equipment. And I think that there's some really interesting, dynamics and paradigms that have yet to be really pushed on here. And as Dave said, right, like we're pushing the envelope in Web3. That's what we're here to do. We're excited about building things that are different, and trying things, and the market's going to speak to whether those things are working, and then we have to make adjustments.
Awesome. So I'm move us along to our next individual question, which is going to go to Chrisley. So in the bull market, we saw a lot of new artists enter the NFT space, and had a lot of success. But over the last year or so, the market has slowed down quite a bit. So what do you think platforms like Nifty Gateway Studio and artists can do to help reinvigorate the excitement around digital and NFT art?
Yeah, I have two answers to this question. I think with the first one, platforms really need to solve the problem of getting NFTs into the hands of just the everyday person without having them know that they're NFTs. I think Nifty Gateway was sort of getting at this when we had our partnership with Starbucks, and it was framed in a way where people could just buy their lattes regularly and kind of engage with their app, similar to how they use their loyalty rewards now, where they purchase their latte, get points, and then they would receive kind of a digital sticker, but it was really an NFT. And I think that is what's really going to get people excited when they're getting these kind of digital assets and then realizing that they then have value, without having to get into the technicalities of what an NFT actually is. I think that's when platforms will really see success. Just making owning NFTs as frictionless as possible, but exploring like all of these other use cases like concerts, ticketing, parties. I think that's where we really get the excitement around digital assets and art. My second answer would be just telling a really interesting story. People love good art, but what people love even more is just understanding the story that went behind it, understanding an artist, and the choices that kind of went behind the artwork. I think one reason why I've always really loved working with Jose and kind of I've enjoyed his art is that there's such an interesting story behind each of his collections and kind of a really intentional partnership with every collection that he's done. So yeah, I think number one, just kind of making NFTs, getting NFTs frictionless, and then two, telling a really interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more on both points, but I think point one applies tenfold, to the gaming industry. And I think anyone who's building a game in the Web3 space knows that that's problem number one to solve is just, trying to find the best method of back-ending a lot of the issues that exist with the tech stack and just improving constantly upon the UX, the user experience for these games so that people understand the utility of the fact that it's a blockchain game, but don't necessarily have to jump over all the hurdles that we have had to, for the past 2 years. And the good news is there's a ton of work being done on an industry level, I think, that's going to help not just the gaming side, but all of the Web3 and NFT markets. And I think we're getting to a point now where that is something that most developers have at their fingertips, with account abstraction and services that can provide all of this back ending for you. And there's some really good ones out there. So I think that, I'm encouraged by that. I think that the second point you made is 100% true. About the story, and just connecting with the artist. I guess what I would, just my personal view is if we are going to see digital art really catch on as a new art form again and sustainably so, I think we need to start really embracing, truly digital experiences. I think, as it's funny because, working with Jose from the beginning and people like Trevor and others who were traditional artists, I was always fascinated by exactly what you said, their stories. But I personally believe that the digital art of the future is just going to be, astonishing experiences by some of the best creatives in the world that wouldn't be possible in the traditional art world. And I think NFTs are going to give us the ownership layer for us to actually do these sorts of things, right? And sell these sorts of things and allow people to own these sorts of experiences. But I think that as we see advances in VR and AR, we're going to be talking about truly new creative experiences that really push the bounds of what art can be, right? Art in architecture. I mean, we start to look at art on a large scale and even in the physical world, there's so many things that are art that may not be in galleries or may not be hanging on a wall. And I think that digital is only going to push that forward. And I guess the art that I'm most excited about is a new genre that probably doesn't exist yet. And, when I got my first VR headset, I went into a recreation of a Dali piece, which was essentially, a metaverse experience where you could walk around the piece. And that was kind of probably 6 years ago and really opened up my mind to what was possible. And I think we've barely scratched the surface of what digital art will be. And I guess I'm excited to see platforms and artists embracing new digital mediums and creating art that really pushes the boundaries of what we've seen.
Awesome. So before we move on to our next individual question to Kevin, for anyone who's joining us who missed the very beginning of the space, we're doing a giveaway today for 5 Satoshi's crystals. So in order to enter to win that, all you have to do is repost the tweet at the top of the space that says "We're live," and then just stick around until the end of the space, and you'll be eligible to win. And then Kevin at Planet Atmos is also going to be giving away a few gameplay passes. So make sure to stick around until the end of the space for that. So Kevin, your question though. So players in Planet Atmos are currently able to earn points, which will go towards a play to airdrop campaign. So in what ways do you think point systems like this benefit a token launch strategy?
I think it's funny, right? It goes back to the first question you actually kind of opened the space with, right? Talking about building community, and my answer to that was around incentive alignment, right? Points in games kind of go hand in hand, right? It's always something that you're doing. You're consistently doing different things to level up, to participate, to complete a loop. But at the end of the day, right? We're building games and we're building them transparently and we're building them in ways where we're letting people access them early. And so programs like this, right, and any of these things are ultimately about, attracting users in that early stage and then getting the feedback and the pieces that we want while we're building in public and ultimately driving towards those being long-term users, right? Now, obviously we know in the space, right, there are lots of people that are there that just want to farm. And that's okay, right? Like we have to recognize that in this space, that's part of the ecosystem and part of, the way that the game is played. At the same time, right, these point systems ultimately break the fourth wall of the game, and allow us to incentivize behaviors that are valuable to the ecosystem, that grow the ecosystem, and that, let users, complete quests effectively in game and out of game, that benefit the project and, the user alike, right? It's a symbiotic relationship in that way. And I think that's obviously, it's a key piece of, a lot of strategies that are happening right now, but I think it really does come down to that Web3 incentive alignment component, in order to cultivate a strong launch. And I will say, go as far as to say, like, we've met some people that came into our community because of incentivized campaigns, that then stuck around and have provided invaluable feedback and also have gotten really, really good at our game. And it's fantastic and it's awesome to see these people playing and breaking things and coming back to us with bugs or, changes that they want to see in the meta. Because, they are, both happy to be there and also incentivized in some way.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Nick to start to close us out and make a couple announcements.
Ooh, having trouble hitting the mute button as well. All right, so this has been, it's crazy how fast these spaces fly by when we're having good conversation. This has been a really incredible space. I just wanted to take a little extra time both to make sure we didn't run over today, but also to just give all the speakers an opportunity to kind of give a plug about what they're building, what's coming up. I know on our end, from the Satoshiverse and the Legion side, the game is free to play, available to download in alpha right now. It's not gated. You can go to our website and download it, or download the fully blockchain-enabled version from Hyperplay, which is a game launcher that allows you to execute transactions in-game using your MetaMask wallet or other wallet. Check out the pinned tweet for all the information. That's going to have everything you need to download the game. We've got a ton of initiatives going on right now, including a free battle pass and a leaderboard campaign where you can win some great prizes. I am going to pass it now back to Chrisley. For those who weren't here earlier, could you just give us a quick rundown of what Jose's got coming up next week, and then we will go over to Kevin at Planet Atmos to run his giveaway, and we'll announce our giveaway winner, and then we can close out with Dave.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Nick. For anyone who wasn't here earlier, I've been working on an upcoming drop of Jose's that's really special. It was created over the span of 3 years, and it's titled The Masters. It honors the kind of greats of the traditional art world. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I think like the initial concept for this collection was thinking about, these great masters, and thinking about what their kind of PFP would look like, which I think is a really nice kind of back to the collection. The greats are Kahlo, we've got Cezanne, Van Gogh, Michelangelo, and Dali. So there's an artist for everyone. My personal favorite is Frida. We're going to be doing these auctions kind of staggered over 4 days next week, starting on July 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern. We kick off with Dali, and then the next day we'll have Van Gogh and Cezanne, and then we finish things off with Frida and Michelangelo. So again, each of the auctions begin at 6 p.m. Eastern each day, starting on the 23rd. And if you want information, feel free to check out the pinned post here, or go to niftygateway.com and just click on that homepage tile that has Jose's kind of portrait. And you can also check out like a really beautifully written blog post that goes into Jose's life and legacy to learn more about that.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Chris Lee. Definitely excited for the drop. I think it's going to be very special. And yes, you got it exactly right. When Jose was working on this back in 2021, we were in the midst of the PFP boom, and as we were thinking about what these pieces would be and talking about it, he wanted to kind of talk about, well, what were artists, what would be special to the artists, and what would they want to put in a profile if they were going to be themselves having these sort of social profiles. And so his view was it would be them, and then they would be surrounded by their art, which I think is super appropriate for most artists I know. So I think it's a very special collection, and we're excited. All right, Kevin, do you want to announce the winners for the giveaway on the Planet Atmos side?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 3 codes for XOGP. Winners, please DM the Planet_Atmos account on Twitter, and we'll get those over to you. And the winners for that are Martin Cap, Danny Rez Oro, and Dogma Cats Underworld. So those are our 3 winners. Feel free to DM Planet Atmos. I think if you don't DM them, we'll reach out to you. But shoot us a message, and we'll get you a code to get in the game.
Amazing. And I think we have one of our own giveaways to announce. So Spencer, do you want to announce the winner there?
Yes, the winner of 5 Satoshi's crystals is Mafloon, or at Mafloon Reborn. Congratulations, Mafloon. And yeah, send us a DM on the Satoshiverse account with your Satoshiverse login, your username, and we'll make sure to get you those crystals in your account.
Amazing. And Kevin or Dave, feel free if you want to, give a last minute plug or anything that you've got coming up, feel free to do so. And then just so you know, I will wait about 30 seconds from when we stop talking because there's a slight delay, and then I will end the space. So thank you all so much for being on here, and feel free.
Yeah. So Engines of Fury every Friday, 1 p.m. UTC. There is Fury Radio, where I go into the adventures of Hank Harrison, and he's telling you about what's going on in the universe. And then sometimes I have a guest, sometimes we just play the game. And if you are watching the show, then you can potentially get in on the alpha. We have all sorts of programs for people who are interested in the crypto side. Fury is a token that is available now and is on many exchanges. And we have all sorts of programs for staking Fury that you should be looking into. If you believe in the game and you want to see it succeed, jump in. Now is the time. There's an ambassador program where you can earn Fury as well. And we have all sorts of prize pools for that. But most importantly, if you're a gamer and you want to see new exciting games like Engines of Fury, a top-down extraction shooter with ARPG elements, please come to Fury Radio and sign up for the alpha on eof.gg/alpha, or come to the radio show and try to win the alpha. I spin a wheel and I have to write down all the names manually right now, but we do a drawing every time I do the show. And you can join us on Discord and message me there and talk to me about the game and whatever you want to do there. So yeah, join up.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having us. Obviously, similarly, we're hosting a game night. We're playing XOGP weekly. The next one is this Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific. You can join that in our Discord, and then obviously we'll be giving away access codes to the game live during that, as well as broadcasting footage. So very similar to Dave's message there. But yeah, we're excited. We have obviously this first phase of XOGP's rollout is running for the next little while, and then we'll be pushing a pretty significant update later in the summer and opening up more broadly. So give us a follow at planet_Atmos on Twitter or join our Discord, and we'd love to obviously chat with you all there and get racing.
All right, thank you all so much. I'm going to end the spaces now.